pleasure to meet all at last, and welcome back to films I should have talked about years ago. So now let's get on to another little subject that will certainly come in mind whenever you think of Disney Plus, and that of course would mean, well, films that may not necessarily be included as exclusives to Disney Plus, but this is one of many that I've seen that I just so happened to watch on Disney Plus shortly before my account had gotten terminated because of the many things that had happened with Gina Carano and all that stuff. Yeah, I probably shouldn't go into too much detail on that. But anyways, let's go ahead and talk about something that I probably should have talked about years ago, Cars 3. Yeah. The third in the series, but ultimately one that might not have been very acceptable or reliable or even necessary by any means. A lot of people might consider sequels these days to some franchises as ones that probably don't really have to happen. Just because they have an idea to just doesn't really mean that they should take them on every time, at least. It might only be in a case where a sequel might actually be there to possibly save the first film from going down into the trenches, or maybe in other cases. I could go into detail on the sort of philosophy that connects with them, but also plenty of other things in mind. But I'm not really going to do any of that because I'm just simply going to talk a bit more about the sequel to Cars that happened to do somewhat better in some ways. But just like what happened in Cars 2 back in 2011, it was not necessarily as appreciated as the first one. But Cars 3, 11 years after the first one, 6 years after the second. But in between it all, there were quite a few things that happened to come into play just to pretty much give us a bit more expansive effort into the Cars universe itself. There was a lot of things that came around. Lots of merchandising, lots of expansions, spin-off series and films that happened to pretty much tie together with the Cars universe itself. But the way that Pixar happened to bring about a third Cars movie in the main series, that only got us questioning. How many more times are we going to have to see Cars over and over again? Are we really going to need a lot more of Owen Wilson and Larry the Cable Guy and the many other actors that come into play? Maybe not. But when it comes to Cars 3, I really got to be honest about this one. The way that they actually put this thing together is quite stunning. It's an idea that happens to really kick in as a way to attempt to save a franchise that could be going down in flames. It's the classic cliche where the main character finally meets up with a rival that happens to do so much better in so many different ways. In this case, it's Lightning McQueen encountering a new generation race car known as Jackson Storm. And Jackson Storm ends up dominating the raceways, left and right, leaving Lightning to question what is happening, what is going on out there, and, well, I guess the rest of that whole entire segment right there is probably history. But the main thing is that the plotline happens to center around mostly the rivalry between Lightning McQueen and Jackson Storm. And for the most part, the characters are certainly well put together. I certainly do like the way that they happen to have Armie Hammer portray Jackson Storm. But let's also not forget about another noteworthy character that came into the movie as well, known as Cruz Ramirez, who, of course, well, has quite a charm. Very similar to the way that Sally had impressed Lightning in the first film, and then of course there were the agents in England who were impressing Mater in the second movie. But in this third film, we have ourselves the supporting character, again, be a typical sort of car out there, a typical sort of, well, emotional attachment to the protagonist, and it almost seems like it's getting a little bit old. They probably might have to try something different if there's ever going to be a Cars 4 or something like that. But in this instance, I don't really mind that this sort of cliche happens over and over again. The fact that they're actually able to utilize this over and over again, it just means that you're getting a lot of extra mileage happening between the different cast members and of course the different character developments that are both occurring at the same time. But again, this film does so much things that are different in comparison to the others. You basically have yourself a whole new rival who's even more powerful than that of Chick Hicks, or even, well, that famous Formula racer from the second movie. But of course, Jackson Storm certainly does not play around. Tries to be the best in every possible way. And I guess in addition to, well, being a complete total jerk to Lightning, just really forces Lightning to eat that dust. Man, that's kind of cruel in most ways. But that only leaves you wondering, how is Lightning McQueen going to be able to conquer with Jackson Storm? The answer is simple. Lightning enters a specialized facility that just so happens to really be the biggest fan in history of Lightning McQueen in general. That right there is quite a surprise, because when would you ever expect someone like that to be the biggest fan of Lightning McQueen, one of the biggest well-known talking cars in the world? Well, I guess there's not much else I could probably talk about that. But I really do have to talk about the many other things that take place, including the mud race, which, well, does allow for a lot of things to take place, including some plot twists as well as some other unique things that take place. But in terms of giving this film a good score, I will also have to mention the ending really quickly, which does not seem to be one that people were expecting. Because unlike the first movie, where Lightning McQueen ends up ditching the race as a way to save, well, the legend, number 43. I tell ya, that was quite a bit of a heart-wrenching moment right there. For Lightning to basically ditch an opportunity to finally score victory away from Chick Hicks, just to go save a wrecked racer, that is as selfless as you could possibly be in a movie. That is quite one of the most brilliant endings that you could ever have in a movie in general. And in the second movie, well, you have something similar, except it's basically Mater being the main role and pretty much getting rid of a bomb that will indeed blow up all of civilization if it is not stopped. And once it is stopped, well, I tell you, it's that sort of cliche where a bomb does not blow up and everybody lives happily ever after. Here in the third film, though, you have quite a big twist that takes place. Probably one of the biggest twists I've ever seen in my life. When that opportunity comes up for Lightning to finally beat Jackson Storm in a race, Cruz Ramirez goes out after Jackson, not Lightning. Oh my goodness. Instead of having the main protagonist go out to finally beat Jackson Storm, the main enemy, and oh my gosh. You know what? I'd say this is quite an ending right there. Cruz Ramirez beating Jackson Storm instead of Lightning McQueen. What a freaking ending that is. It's no wonder why this film is not as appreciated as the first one. The second one seems to be hated, and this one does not do any better. This is the reason why. This freaking ending. Cruz beats Jackson and not Lightning. Oh, man. What were they thinking back there? Oh, gosh. You know what? It's time to give this baby a score, because I need to move on from stuff that is just this messed up. So, here we go. 6.4 out of 10 for this one. 6.4 for Cars 3. End of story. Good night. If you want to see more go down on my channel, make sure that you like, subscribe, comment, follow me on social media, and stay on the Hollywood side. Oh, man.